I never thought a tomato plant would get me a $1,500 fine, 3 police visits, and a vendetta from the most miserable woman on the HOA board. You see, I moved out here for peace. For space. For the joy of watching chickens peck and tomatoes ripen under the sun. Not to be told my zucchini patch was a menace to the neighborhood aesthetic. But that's exactly what happened when Karen, yes, her real name might as well be Karen, decided my little backyard farm was the bane of her manicured existence. At first, it was just concerned notes slipped into my mailbox. Then it escalated. Fines. Threats. Cops showing up like I was cooking meth instead of compost. The kicker. My property isn't even technically under the HOA's jurisdiction. But Karen? She doesn't care about rules. Only control. What she didn't know was, I record everything. And what I found hidden in her own backyard would turn her entire crusade into a scandal. She brought war to my fence line. But I was about to bring the harvest. My name's Jake. I'm a 34-year-old software engineer turned part-time urban farmer. A few years ago, I cashed out of the city grind and bought a modest ranch-style home on the edge of a suburban development. 1 acre, just enough for a garden, 3 chickens, and peace. The neighborhood is technically split, half is HOA governed, half isn't. My property? Not in the HOA. But guess where Karen lives? Yep. Dead center of the HOA zone. And she loves that power. It started simple. One morning, I found a typed note taped to my mailbox. Your roosters are disruptive. This is a family neighborhood. I don't own roosters. 2 days later, another note. The smell of livestock is infringing on communal enjoyment. I use odorless compost. Chickens clean as a whistle. The notes got bolder. And then, one afternoon while I was pruning heirloom tomatoes, I saw her. Karen. Blonde bob, yoga pants, and a clipboard like it was a weapon. She was taking pictures. Of my yard.
I walked up calmly. Can I help you? She barely looked up. Documenting violations. Violations of what? She smiled. Neighborhood code. I reminded her. I'm not in the HOA. She said, oh, but you affect us. 2 days later, I received a letter from the HOA demanding I remove my unauthorized farm structures. My chicken coop. This was just the beginning. Within weeks, Karen had turned my quiet life into a siege. She reported me to the county health department. Twice. An officer showed up and looked almost embarrassed. Sir, she said your chickens are feral. I offered him an egg and a coffee. He laughed and left. Then came the fines. HOA letter after letter. $500 for the coop. $300 for excessive vegetation. $700 for non-conforming property usage. I called their office. Explained I wasn't a member. They replied, Karen submitted a petition. Claims your house is within the influence radius. Influence radius? Next came sabotage. One morning, I found my compost bins overturned. Another day, my irrigation hose had been sliced. I installed cameras. Sure enough, Karen, at 2:17 a.m., in a hoodie, creeping around my property line with scissors. I submitted the footage to the sheriff's department. They warned her. She responded by calling the cops on me. Said I was harboring dangerous animals. 3 squad cars. For chickens. The officer, same one as before, sighed. Jake, I'm sorry. We're obligated to check it out. The chickens clucked politely as he left. Karen wasn't acting alone, either. 2 other HOA board members started showing up. Measuring things. Inspecting. I found them with measuring tape near my fence. When I confronted them, they said, we're surveying for community compliance. I said, this isn't your jurisdiction. They smiled. Yet, that night I decided enough. I started digging into Karen's history. And what I found, well, it changed everything. Turns out, Karen had been in 3 HOA lawsuits in the last 5 years. Each time, she pushed past her jurisdiction, targeted properties, and, get this, was caught embezzling funds once. She settled privately. I dug deeper. Public records. A friend who's a real estate attorney helped me understand the bylaws. I wasn't just free from the HOA, I was immune to their enforcement. But Karen had signed multiple fraudulent citations with forged signatures from supposed board votes. That was criminal. So I planned a little harvest festival. Just a small invite-only get-together on my property. But I also invited someone special, the local news. A friend's cousin, looking for a neighborhood drama piece. The event went off perfectly. Music, tomatoes, kids petting chickens. And Karen? She showed up, fuming, shouting that I had illegally hosted a public event. She tried to shut it down, in front of a live camera. And I handed the reporter a folder, footage of her vandalizing my property, police reports, and forged HOA documents. She turned white. The news segment aired 2 days later. Karen, red-faced, screeching about dangerous poultry, spliced with her midnight chicken coop raid footage. It went viral. Neighbors who had silently suffered under her reign finally spoke up. Turns out, I wasn't the only one she harassed. HOA emergency meeting was called, and Karen, removed from the board, facing misdemeanor charges for trespassing and document fraud. One board member resigned out of embarrassment. My favorite moment? Karen walking past my gate, eyes down, as my chickens clucked victoriously in the background. I smiled and said, "Tomatoes are in season, Karen. Want one?" She didn't respond. Life's quieter now. My garden's thriving. My chickens are local celebrities. One of them is named Justice. No more fines. No more forged letters. Just fresh produce and a community that finally stood up to tyranny. Funny how one angry woman tried to control what she didn't own and ended up losing what she did. So if you've ever been targeted, preside, obviously. But I sat directly behind my attorney as my own colleague read out the charges. Harassment of minors, false CPS reporting privacy violations, and unlawful detainment of minors. A federal felony. The courtroom was dead silent when the prosecution played the footage of my crying children. Linda cried too, but no one offered her a tissue. She was sentenced to house arrest, fined $75,000, and permanently banned from holding any neighborhood authority. That AS for Greg. He's now the registered offender for unlawful surveillance. The HOA dissolved. The playground reopened, and my kids, they play without fear now. Turns out, there's one thing more dangerous than a corrupt HOA. A dad who writes the law. Crestone Hills is quiet again, but not because of rules, because of respect. Funny how the people most obsessed with order are the first to break it when they feel threatened. They didn't want peace. They wanted control. And when that failed, they wanted revenge. They didn't expect a federal judge to live among them. And they certainly didn't expect him to keep receipts. Here's the lesson. Never mistake calm for weakness. And never, ever go after someone's children, especially not when their bedtime stories come from legal casebooks. And yes, my kids still ride scooters. On the sidewalk, loudly, comment "Justice served" if you made it to the end. And tell me, what would you have done if it were your kids? Until next time, stay lawful, because you never know who's watching from the porch next door.